The silent cry in the suburbs. Suburban life in America promises one thing above all else: safety. Wide, tree-lined streets. Neighbors who smile as they water their lawns. Kids riding bicycles until the streetlights flicker on. Every detail tells families, you are safe here. Nothing bad happens in neighborhoods like this. That was what the Johnson family believed, too. It was a Wednesday evening. The aroma of roasted chicken and garlic bread filled the kitchen. Karen Johnson moved from stove to table, setting out side dishes, while her husband Mark finally closed his laptop after a 12-hour workday. Their teenage son scrolled aimlessly through his phone, half listening to the news humming from the television in the living room. For a few minutes, everything felt steady, controlled, normal. But the youngest, Emma, just 7 years old, stopped mid-bite. Her fork slipped from her hand and clattered against the plate. She turned slowly toward the window, her small body stiff, her eyes wide. "Mom," she whispered. "Did you hear that?" Karen froze. "Hear what, honey?" Emma's voice was shaky. A scream. From next door. The room went quiet. Mark exhaled sharply, rubbing his temples. "Emma. Sweetheart. You've been reading too many of those mystery books again." Her brother smirked, never looking up from his phone. "Yeah, Dad's right. Probably just the TV." But Emma's face stayed pale. Her hands pressed against the glass, her breath fogging the window. "No, I'm sure. It came from the Miller's house." Karen glanced at Mark, her expression uneasy. "She won't let this go," her eyes seemed to say. Mark groaned, pushed his chair back, and grabbed his hoodie. "Fine. I'll check." The neighborhood outside was quiet, almost eerily so. A faint breeze carried the smell of cut grass and distant barbecue smoke. Porch lights glowed warmly, giving every house a postcard-perfect charm. Mark walked across the driveway, his footsteps crunching softly on the gravel, and rang the Miller's bell. Mrs. Miller answered. Her smile was quick, too quick. "Oh, Mark, hi. Everything okay?" "Yeah, sorry to bother you," Mark said, clearing his throat. "We thought we heard something. Just wanted to make sure everything's fine." "Of course," she said lightly. "Nothing to worry about." Her hand clutched the edge of the door. Behind her, the sound of a television laugh track spilled out, the picture of normal suburban life. But her eyes flickered nervously to the side. Her smile held a strain, like it was pasted on. Mark forced a polite nod and walked back. "See? Everything's fine," he told his family when he stepped inside. But Emma was trembling. "She's lying," she whispered. "I saw something." Then she gasped, pointed. "There. Look." Through the Miller's curtain, a face appeared. Pale, desperate, eyes wide with terror, lips moving, silently forming two words. "Help me." Mark's heart lurched. Suddenly Emma's voice wasn't imagination. It was the truth. He dialed 911. Those minutes waiting for the police stretched like hours. Emma clung to Karen's waist. Mark paced the floor, guilt gnawing at him. He kept thinking about Mrs. Miller's trembling hand, about how quickly she had shut the door. Karen whispered, "What if Emma's right? What if someone's in there?" Mark clenched his jaw. Then God help us for not seeing it sooner. And then sirens. Red and blue lights painted the quiet street. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains, some stepping out onto porches in slippers and robes. The street, usually filled with laughter and kids on bikes, now buzzed with confusion and fear. The officers banged on the door, shouting commands. Silence. And then crash. The door gave way. What came next silenced the neighborhood. A woman, frail and bruised, was led out on a stretcher, shackled in a back room, hidden away for weeks. Her photo had been on missing posters taped to grocery store windows and bus stops. All this time, she had been right next door. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Neighbors muttered, horrified. How could this happen here? How could we not know? Mark dropped to one knee beside Emma, pulling her close. His voice cracked. "I'm sorry, baby. I should have believed you." Emma buried her face in his chest. "I just didn't want her to be alone." The flashing lights eventually faded. Officers stayed, reporters came, and the street, this picture-perfect street, felt forever changed. People whispered, but no one laughed. Doors shut earlier. Curtains stayed drawn. And in the days that followed, neighbors struggled with their guilt. They had waved to the Millers, exchanged recipes, hosted barbecues. Yet none of them had seen what was happening just behind those walls. For Mark and Karen, one truth stayed with them. Courage doesn't always look like bravery in the movies. Sometimes it's a child refusing to be ignored. Sometimes it's listening to the small voice that others dismiss. Because sometimes, that quiet voice is the only thing standing between life and death.